welcome to another episode of Standing 8. I'm Paul Fitzgerald. I'm joined by my co-host, three-time world champion and boxing Hall of Famer, Jeff Fennick, or four-time, yeah, and the voice of Australian boxing, Ben Damon.
G'day, Paul. Yeah, great to be here, mate. A really special guest, John Steffensen, is here today. Olympic medalist, one of Australia's most successful ever athletes. I went through your record this morning. I think we forget just how many major tournaments you won. Do you feel that you're sort of like underrated by
the most successful Australian sprinter?
Yeah, I'm a male sprinter. There's been a lot of great female sprinters, but I think humility is like something my parents taught me. And even though how I was quite extroverted, and I knew that's what sold when I was running as an athlete. But at home, having Jeff as a friend, there's no way I can be cocky or arrogant. Right. He'll put me in my place in a second. Yeah. All my friends are pretty much like that. So when you ask me, do I feel like I'm being underrated? No, I know what I've done, and I'm pretty comfortable. My friends and the people I hang out with know what I've done, and they respect me for not only my athletic feats, but for who I am as a person. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. But you know, when I look back, like, and working with younger kids now, I get every now and then I get little like, shit, I did that, you know, and I'm asking them to do it. And I'm like, oh, I actually did that. And it puts me in a good position of influence. And that's why I'm still involved with the Federation now and still working and mentoring kids and coaching younger kids and stuff, which really my vocation is giving that part back. So, but no, it's cool, man. When I just moved back from Melbourne and I was going through packing everything up, and I was looking through like my scrapbook. And I was like, shit, like I could did some shit, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you forget, you just move on. I'm sure when you look around in Jeff's sort of Hall of Fame room here, I'm sure he does the same thing. He looks and I did that fight, I did this, I did that. And you remember all the moments leading up to those times.
Yeah, but I don't think Australia really appreciate or know enough about this guy. And like I said, when I first met up with John, then met his father, and it was an amazing occasion. His dad's one of those old school real dads that just loves their kids unconditionally and wants them not just to be the best, but he wants them to be the best in sport and in life. And I think that if you've got those principles, especially with life, your principles in sport just come to flow. And ever since I've known John, he never even trained here in Australia. He's training in America, trying to be better than everybody else. And I think that's why he holds the records and he has the wins that he has, because he worked harder than anybody else.
John, you talked before we started about your dad meeting Jeff for the first time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was funny. So my father's like an old school trade. He just works 38-hour days if he has to, comes home, works, comes home, works. So
excuse me, 38-hour days.
If he has to. Yeah, well, it's an expression if you're a tradie. You don't stop. There's no such thing as 24 hours. You just keep working, you know what I mean? So he came to Sydney, and I said to my dad, I said, oh, do you want to go have dinner with Jeff? And my dad was like, I try and take him to like grand finals, Australian Open, doesn't want to know about it. Nah, don't want to know. Even Usain Bolt's a good mate of mine. And my dad's like, yeah, that's it.
He's not fazed by anything.
Not really fazed by it. He's never starstruck at all. And the first time I seen him starstruck was down the road in Five Dock. Taking him to dinner with Jeff, and my old man was quiet. My old man kind of like, he had like glaze over his eyes. So I asked him in the car, I was like, Dad, what? He's like, John, you don't understand what Jeff meant to us at that time in our lives in the 90s and the 80s. He goes, he stood up, he stood for what we were dreaming to be, you know. And he goes, and I think there was moments of time when he watched Jeff fight, which he remembered raising us as kids, going to because he used to watch him in pubs, working all day, going, Jeff's about to fight, I'm going to the pub to watch him, going back to work. Yeah. And I think it really brought up those emotions for him, looking, actually, this is a guy which sort of he looked up to as a beacon of hope when he immigrated from South Africa, you know? So, and that was quite a surreal to see my old man like that, because, you know, I looked at my dad as Superman growing up, you know, all the way even till now. Like, I respect if it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be half the man I am today. And that's something he's always taught me, is to cherish my relationships and not to have a short memory for those that help you to be where you are today. So, and that's one of the reasons why, with Jeff, I have a huge amount of respect for him because at the time when I was blacklisted from Olympic Games in London, when I spoke out about racism and equality and about how what I felt where the federation lacked as an organisation, I came home and I was going through like mild depression without a doubt. Like I could tell I was hurting a bit, and I met Jeff through a very good friend that I boxed with when I was a kid, Adam Forsyth, who went to Olympics in 2004 in the heavyweight division.
Yeah,
and Jeff obviously must have recognised something in me that he could see, damn, this kid needs a bit of an arm around his shoulder, and we went to Thailand like 2 days later. He's like, you got to come with me to Thailand. And I said to my missus, man, Jeff Fennick wants me to come to Thailand, man. I'm coming. I don't know what's going on here. Like, and it was because it was a Sunday. He told me, he's like, we're leaving Tuesday. And I said, stuff it, man, I'm going to go. So we went Tuesday and had a ball, and it actually snapped me out of what I was feeling, that I was appreciated by somebody where I felt completely isolated and alone because I was like public enemy number one for what I stood up for at that time. It was quite taboo at that time. Now you got Goodsy, you got everybody talking about this racism and equality. But at the time when I did do it, people was like, what's he talking about, mate? Just run faster. You know, it was nothing about what I was trying to say. And then after that, when I got home, when I landed back, my missus told me, she was pregnant with my daughter. So like so I always respect.
That's strange while you're away.
Yeah. I know. Jesus. Well, lucky you were with me, so it can't be. So it's I respect my friendships and respect why I am here today. And I'm truly grateful, man. I'm really blessed. I've had a super duper career this far in athletics, and I'm having a great life as a man.
One thing you just glossed over is, and not a lot of people know, you actually had an amateur boxing career.
Yeah, I love fighting. Boxing was my first love. Like as a kid, I was pretty small as a boy, and my parents got divorced, and I think my father could tell I was going to go off the rails. And I was good. I did a little athletics and I could run, but I was going through a growth spurt. I was not growing, and every other kid was growing like around 11 and 12. So I was really struggling in athletics as well and coming last. And old man took me to boxing in Perth, and I started just training boxing, and then I ended up training with Ron Parr, who's a Muay Thai boxing coach, Muay Thai coach in Perth, and then Ron took me to Jeff Peterson, ended up being one of the Olympic coaches in 2004 and AIS coach, and then ended up having my first amateur fight with Jeff, and then just went from there. I loved it. My first fight, man, I remember looking at my dad, just how much I love my dad, and I was a soft kid. I still think I'm a soft dude, like an angry cat. Like I'll get angry and I'll stand up for what I believe in. But I remember looking at my dad, and I remember thinking, why? Like, get me out of here, man.
You're freaking out.
I don't want to be here. Like, I was like 40. My first fight was 44 and a half kilos.
How old were you?
Schoolboy. I was 13 years of age, I think.
You're blessed, mate. I was 18 and that heavy. I was 17 and that heavy.
Yeah, man. But I thought I was so... And I looked at my dad, and I jumped through the ropes. My dad was my second corner man, and Jeff was obviously my coach. And I looked at my dad like, nah, man, please. Like, this ain't it. Like, we got to stop this. Like, and then I had my first amateur fight, and once I got through that, I started to really love it. And then you go through and Jeff would, as you guys know, being involved in fighting, you go through the politics of boxing and different weight classes, and Aboriginal kids coming out from north in a bus full, and they're meant to be 44 kilos, but they're 48 kilos. They're meant to have no fights, but they've had 8 fights, and then you're getting bashed, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you go
So you thought running was better?
Yeah. That's the truth. Yeah. That's actual truth. Yeah. I was 19, so I started 13. I had my last fight at 63 and a half kilos at 19. I fought I thought he was a relatively good, he turned pro, Ben Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
I fought Ben Cruz in my last fight. And
it's Tom's son.
His P&O son. Because I was pretty light on my feet, I found women at that time too, and I found alcohol at 19. And my coach is saying, "Yeah, John, you got to train, man." I said, "I've got this, man. You know, I'll box the shit out of this bloke," because he was a heavy hitter. He was a strong kid. And in the first round, I won the first round. We went back to the point system. Won the second round, and then my feet stopped moving, and he just pumped me from one corner to another corner to another corner. And I remember looking at my father in the fourth round. It was a 5-round fight. And I looked at my father in the corner, and I stopped in the fourth. I didn't continue. He bashed me.
Yeah.
And And my old man looked at me with utter disgust, like just because he warned me, my dad. He said to me before, he said, you should train, you know. And I said, Dad, you'll be all right. You should train. I was like, Dad, I'll be all right. I have the skills, you know, I'll be all right. And yeah, that was my last fight. That was it.
I want to go back to what you said about when you came home and you spoke out to your beliefs. How did you feel? How did you feel the Australian public reacted to that? Because I remember, it wasn't good. I mean, if I was you, I mean, or if that was me, wow. Yeah. Although you did, you certainly stood up for yourself. What are your recollections?
Maybe give us a refresher as well of what you said and what the circumstances were.
Long story short, I pretty much won everything in a year. I really trained hard, and there was a qualification sort of standard and criteria you had to make the Olympic Games, and I missed out on one of the criteria, and because I ran at Stall Gift and tore my hamstring in Stall. And
this is 2012?
2012, yeah. And I was content not to run the individual at the Olympic Games and just run the relay, because if I wasn't there to win, I'd pull myself out. Like in 2008, I was number 3 in the world in 2007, and in 2008 I should have won a medal in Beijing, and I got appendicitis and then I tore my hamstring like 6 weeks before the games, and I pulled out of the individual because I felt if I'm not going to win, I always felt like I'm only going to go to these championships if I have a chance to represent my country and win. I'm not going to fill lanes. Like I never wanted to do that. So when that happened in 2012, they decided to they didn't give me the option to pull out. So what it would have looked like was John's not good enough. We're pulling him out.
You were stepped over.
I was stepped over, which for my brand and for my sponsors, which that's how I eat, it was a very, very bad look. So I was explaining to them behind the scenes saying, don't do that. We'll put this other younger kid in and look like I'm passing the torch, because this is going to be my last Olympics. I've been to 3 already, so it'll be great. I think he's a good kid and I think he'll do very, very well. Let's make it look like I'm stepping aside and putting him in, and that way it's a great story that, you know, for the sport, and it's great for this young kid. And then when he does do well, it looks like there's some cohesion and there's some,
everyone supported him.
Everyone supported him to get there, and it's great for the sport. They didn't want to do it that way, and I gave him, I warned the CEO at the time. I said, I was in Paris, and I said, if you don't do it this way, I'm giving you 48 hours. I'm going to go to Channel 9 in Paris, and I'm going to speak to the morning show, and I'm going to give you double barrels. And they thought I wouldn't, and I did. And then I just spoke out about everything, just about everything I'd gone through because we kept it all quiet for so many years. There's heaps of times, and I'm pretty strong. Like guys in the team would call me nigger or coon or jungle bunny and stuff like that. And to me, from boxing, I just will fight him. I'll just deal with it myself. Like I didn't have to go nowhere and tell anybody. But the way we live the world now in 2020, you can't. If I go punch somebody, I'll be the bad guy in the situation. If I go deal with it, I'm the one that's the troublemaker.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, okay, so what happened? And you have to do this whole, I guess, governance around how that situation happened. And it's like I feel like you shouldn't have to break it down. It's a humane sort of act and how you treat one another, especially on a team. And I just was speaking out about that in 2012, saying, look, I kept all that quiet all these years. In order for the sport not to have negative publicity, because I dealt with it myself. I would speak to those guys, explain to them how damaging it was to if you want to call me anything else, if we want to dig deep, I'm going to punch you in the face if you call me this.
Yeah.
If you want to have some banter and have a crack at me, go down that road. That's a better road for me, and we'll deal with it that way. So, and I'd have a chat with them. And the 2 guys that did it, we became mates.
Yeah.
And you would know who they are. And we actually became really good mates afterwards, because they just needed some education around that. It's not just the word at that time. My parents immigrated here. I was one of the only coloured kids on the team. I already felt sort of alone. And then, so I was going to have my back up against the wall before I entered the team anyway. And then it's not going to take much to fuel me to say something that's going to have me on the edge.
Yeah.
So, that's what I was only explaining, because people say it is just a word, and I'm big enough and strong enough to handle that. But when you're coming with all that baggage before you even get there, and you're trying to perform the best for your country, and you want those guys to be on your team, or you want at least feel that they want you to be successful, you can feel quite alone out there.
It weighs you down a bit.
Yeah, and that's why eventually I think I got to a point where I sort of isolated myself a bit and became quite a loner in the team, and just sort of thought, no, fuck it, I'm going to go there. Excuse my language, guys, but I'm going to go there. I'm going to put the blazer on. I'm going to run for myself, and I'm going to win whatever I can win, and I'm getting the hell out of here. You know what I mean? And that's sort of and I hated that. So now being involved in a federation, I don't want a young kid to go through that. So I'm trying to, be involved as a board member, being involved as a high performance consultant. I want, it doesn't matter wherever you're from. Just
I think it's pretty special and pretty smart that the federation have done that. I mean, I think, I've been blessed enough to know you for a few years, and I love being around you. I love what comes out of your mouth. I love what's implanted in your head. I've sat there with your dad and listened to him talk, and I know that those lessons that he taught you, that you you practice what you preach. And for me, we done the show together. We done Celebrity Apprentice together, and when I seen Johnny at work then and seen how smart he was, it was a shock to me.
Thanks, Jeff.
We always had fun and had a joke, but when it was time to get to work and do what we had to do, without doubt, I'm not sure if you're listening, Steph Rice, but I thought John deserved to win the Celebrity Apprentice by far.
You can tell he's my mate, eh? He's too kind. Yeah. But I wouldn't have done the show without Jeff. I mean, that was the time I was going through a lot in my life.
Yeah, it was. It was a big thing at the time. And I've no embarrassment at all. I asked Mark Brawston, listen, I'd love to get John Steffensen on the show, and we got him on, and I think it was the best thing that happened.
Mark was great too.
It was
a great man.
Important thing for you as well. It's probably a little bit sad, isn't it, that you needed that show to propel you into sort of mainstream.
Well, it certainly did, mate.
Yeah, I know, but
but
he shouldn't have needed that.
Well, I wouldn't say propel me into mainstream. I'd say it changed the perception that people had of me. It gave them an opportunity to see another side, and that's what I'm always thankful to the show.
I'm not even sure it's another side with that. That's just you, Johnny.
No, I think I only saw that athletic side.
I understand that, but no. Yeah, and they heard you talk and stuff, but
I was pretty wild as an athlete, man. Some of the shit I said was pretty.
Maybe we shouldn't say that. So.
No, but I know what you're saying. But I think, and that's why I'm forever again talking about. I don't have a short memory. I know what has been done for me, and with that show, it allowed me to get on the board of Athletics Australia because it calmed everyone's nerves around me. Because I think at the time people felt I was just a firebrand that didn't have any, I guess, control or any sort of game plan to what I was saying. I knew what I was doing every time. That's what they didn't understand.
They thought you were dangerous.
Yeah, they just thought this guy is he's a recipe for disaster if we get around him, So my sponsors knew who I was. That's why it never made sense. I had a lot of great partners, and they all knew me and backed me, but my federation wouldn't back me at the time. It made no sense. So Apprentice was a great opportunity. Jeff said, you should do the show. He said, I'll speak to Mark for you. And then Jeff was close to David Gingell as well. And then, and the rest is history. And that show really catapulted my brand, where Ginge was awesome. After the show, he got me in and said, you should, try Wide Water Sports if you want, son. And only 200,000 people watch, so if you mess up, don't worry. And I was like, 200,000 people, man, goddamn. So, and then the rest is history. I got to do 5 beautiful years on Wild Water Sports, which is a show I grew up watching. Yeah. And again, if it wasn't for that opportunity, it wasn't for Jeff, Mark, and those people, I wouldn't have these opportunities, right? So I'm a big believer. You can't have a short memory, man, to get to where you are in your life, man. And a lot of people do, and it sickens me. So, yeah.
Where do you think we're at now compared to 2012 in terms of racism in athletics and more broadly in Australia?
In Australia's changed heaps. It's amazing from 2012 to now.
Yeah.
Our education in Australia we're still a long way to go. I think there's still an undercurrent of racism, but I think that's just inherent through lack of education. I don't think it's because we come from a society which is evil or has sinister sort of ideology around race and what race stands for. I just think it's just time. It'll evolve. I think the generation now is so educated through the mediums of internet, social media, that they're quite in tune on what is right and what is wrong. It's just sort of the older generations, which it just became part of our colloquialism. It became how we live. Yes. And I don't think there's any venom in it, where a lot of the older generation, I think there's a lot of, I don't think I say Eddie Maguire's situation, people might disagree with me. Was it wrong completely? Should he have done it? No. Do I really think Eddie had venom in what he said? I don't think he did.
No.
So that's my opinion on it. But these words can hurt. As you watch the Goodsy documentary, they can destroy you. Like, some guys are not strong enough to handle it. And I don't think they have a place in our society. I think through more understanding is great. But also, I do feel we also have to not be too sensitive about it as well. So it's a very fine line, and you've got to learn to play it, a bit better. And I think that's what we're learning now. So as far as the federation, Ben, our president, what he's done, Mark Arbib was old sports minister for Labor Party, legend. I can't say any words do not describe what I think he's done for the sport. I think our board has come a hell of a long way. I think in general our states have come a hell of a long way. Our state associations, our CEO, he's done a great job. He's been put under a lot of pressure. He was old touch judge for the NRL, Darren Gosha. So it's we as a sport, it's a testament to the younger athletes, I think, because they're the ones really educating their coaches, educating the old generation. They're the ones that are really the beacons. They're the ones that are running out there. They're the ones that are posting on Instagram. They're the ones that are showing this cohesion, this understanding. They're a bit more liberal in their thoughts and a bit more understanding in how they go about their sport. Where I was a bit more of a savage, like our older generation was. You were there to make it happen. This is a bit different how you deal with younger athletes now. They're a lot less savage in their approach and how they play sport. I don't like it. I like the old school.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, mate, I think in athletics, and this is going to be controversial, I think it's bad, and they're going to smack me for this, but I think when you're dealing with a world sport like track and field, where there's countries where some of the countries these kids are coming from, they don't win, they don't eat. So they're doing whatever they possibly can. It's a bit like fighting. Some of these boxers that are coming, they're fighting for life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was a real funny thing the other day, and I've got to bring this up. We were at the gym, we were talking, and Johnny was watching young Brock spar and stuff, and somebody asked Johnny the difference between, running and boxing and stuff, and Johnny had this analogy that was just amazing. He said, "Man, we lose a race, we just walk across the track and whatever. Like in a fight, you lose your head punched in, you knocked, So and when he said it, really, he's done them both.
Ego gets hurt. You everything just gets bashed. So running wasn't like for me coming from boxing was brilliant because I had the mental strength. When I ran up. And I think boxing actually did me dirty because I came into running and I was scared of nobody. Because that one-on-one confrontation with a man is something, if you learn as a kid, is so intense. It's and Jeff obviously can speak. I don't know if you boys have jumped in the ring and sparred. You jumped in there, Paul?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You had a crack?
Yeah.
But so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course he does. Fingers across there, get him across, Paul.
Get in there, Paul.
This guy, wow.
Ben's coming soon. He's too pretty to do it.
What do you mean?
That's his money maker. You know what I mean?
How many rounds you do with Mike?
It's a long way behind me.
But yeah, it's something which when I'm going to running, I feared nobody. I remember going to World Champs in 03 and just finding out who was the best coach in the world, and I begged him for 7 days to coach me. And eventually I tired him out where I called him that many times. He just said, "Look, man, just come." And then he's like my uncle, John Smith. I now think he's one of the best coaches in the world. And he coached everyone from Perec to Maurice Green, Ardo Bolden. He's just coached so many people. And
you mean you were training with in America?
That's who I was training with. So I lived in a car for about 6 months when I first moved over. I just knew I had to be with him.
Listen to this.
And I already had Olympic silver medal, but just had no money. And Alan Jones, who mentored me through my whole career, the radio announcer, he supported me got me a plane ticket from Qantas to get there. So I went to him and I said, I need to get to America. I want to be with this coach. And then a friend I met in the Olympics in 04, he said, I got a house, John. When I landed there, he had no house. He only had his car. So we ended up living in a car and then going he had a girl he was dating, but she worked in an apartment site. So they had a demo apartment. So we'd go there, but be out by 7 o'clock so they could take people through. And then we'd stay at a mate's couch on the weekend, which would go out on a Friday night. And then I lived with about $4 a day because KFC had a deal where $1 chicken sandwiches. So I knew I could get $2 for lunch, 2 sandwiches, and then 2 for dinner.
Oh wow!
And then
that's good.
And then but then through Alan, he spoke to Mark Peters, who was head of the AIS at the time, and because I got my Olympic silver medal, he convinced him to give me $10,000 as a grant, and so I'm always grateful for Alan for how he helped me unconditionally, and boom, that catapulted me. Then from there, I made the final of World Champs, the second Australian history to do so, and then I won Commonwealth 6 months later, and that catapulted me into actually making money in the sport and that was a mad ride, man. That Los Angeles was Sorry, my story about 2003. I remember going there and seeing who the best in the world was, and I just decided there and then that I was going to beat him. That's what boxing did for me.
But that's quite incredible because you already had a silver medal from the Olympics in the 4x400.
Yeah.
You go to the States, you're living in a car.
Yeah.
So you're already successful, Olympian, and
But I think it was good for me because there wasn't enough success. And I think sometimes in Australia, we have one little bit of success and we think we've made it.
It was a Rolls Royce he was living in.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
It was LA, man. I got to look fly. Excuse me. I think I never looked at my medals until I retired. I never put any bit of memorabilia until I retired because I never wanted to look at what I've done because I didn't want to be complacent. My coach, I remember when I made the final World Champs in Helsinki, I was a shit kicker in the group. So you got to understand, like, I'd pull up in my mate's car to training or on a bus in LA, and these boys are pulling in Mercs, Range Rovers, Porsches. Like, we're talking Inga Miller, Tori Edwards. We're talking. We had our own TV show, our training group on Eurosport, and I just got to the group. So they're rock stars. We're going to Europe and they're on TV, right? So I'm pulling up, and so I had to always be the last. If we got our flights booked, I was always in the back. I was always carrying bags. We got to World Champs, and I finally made the final. I'm walking back from the track after making the final, and my coach is in the warm-up track, and he goes, "How did he go?" I'm thinking, "You don't watch my fucking race." I just ran, and I was livid. I was filthy at him. I went to warm down. I saw one of my training partners said, "How dare you? I bust my ass to get here," and my training partner sort of knew the play, but he said, "No, I just warmed down, you'll be right." And I ran the final. I came last in the final. My coach was very proud of me after the final. I said, "Well done, son," and everything. So anyway, years later, I caught up with my coach and I brought up that moment because it shattered me. I thought, how can you not?
Didn't respect you enough to watch your race.
Respect me enough. I knew I was a shit kicker in the group, but at least watch my someone. Like, it's the second Aussie in history, man. Give me some props. And he said, "John, I watched your race, but I never wanted you to be complacent with only making the final. I wanted you to know that when we pull up to the championships, making a final is standard. Winning a medal is what we're there to do."
Yeah.
So, and that did drive me because I was so angry at him. When I went to Commonwealth, I just wanted to win a major because there's 3 majors, Commonwealth, Worlds and Olympics. I just wanted to win a major so I could get that respect in the group, and lucky I was blessed enough to be able to do it 6 months later.
Wow. So that Commonwealth Games gold medal is your finest moment?
Nah, probably I reckon Berlin World Champs, the bronze medal in the relay with the boys, Right. It was the first time I was sort of like a captain of the team. There were 2 younger guys that weren't that good at that. They were young, so they were really raw, really scared to be at such a big stage. And just I spent a lot of time with them, and I really felt like it was the first time in my career where it's such a selfish sport I could become selfless and give my energy that I had to make other people better, and it's weird, man. That gave me more joy than I loved Commonwealth. Don't get me wrong, like winning in front of 90,000 at the G was epic, man. Like and
as an individual too.
As an individual. I mean, we all look at individual medals, but that bronze medal at World Champs is the first time again that Australia has ever won a bronze medal in a 4x4 World Championship. So again, there's something I've been a part of, which is the first that's ever been done. But seeing those 2 boys and the belief they had in me in the quorum, and I knew how shit scared they were, and I broke rules because they put you in different rooms. So they break. So runner 1 goes in that room when you come into the quorum before you get out on the track. Runner 2 goes in that room, so you don't see each other. Right. So for a younger kid, it's quite nerve-wracking because they're seeing their idols. That they're about to run next to now, and so I just walked out the room. I knew they were shit themselves, and I started to fight one of the Americans to break the
concentration.
Concentration. What did you say?
Because they started a war cry, and I said, anyway, jam the war cry up. To jam that up. And then one of them got upset, but I knew 2 guys I trained with in the States, so I knew that nothing would really happen. But the other 2 didn't know that I knew. So then the boys, and then Andy got a bit crazy, and then the boys at the car, and the boys were looking at me going, "Oh, what's going on here? This is nuts!" John's lost it. Yeah. So it took their minds off it, and I'm not saying that was the catalyst why they won, but I think it all helps. And both those guys went on to. The guy helped whip my ass the next year. I was flat.
You helped him too much.
I helped him too much. He kicked my ass the next year. So, and the other kid, he became a great 4 hurdler, and I think he became world ranked the following year. But that to me was was epic. You know, that was we won that. The joy we had. It's giving me shivers thinking about it now. Like the joy we had together, and that was a stadium where Hitler and Jesse Owens. Like, you know, we got to stand on the podium where Hitler stood, and then all walked through the tunnel where apparently he cried after Jesse Owens won. Like that was huge, mate. Like it was such an epic moment, you know, and all that stuff. So yeah, that was probably my best. But comms always that was the making of me, man. When I came out and I talked big. I found an article where the year before I said I will win and I will run 44, so I just called it early. So I had to back up my mouth. You know what I mean? Like,
you got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And what about the Olympics? Tell us of the experience of winning silver at Olympic Games.
Oh man, it's not going to make you. It's not inspirational at all. I hated running at that time.
Right.
I hated being part of the team. I just didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel comfortable, and I said to my dad, I said, I don't want to go to Olympic Games after World Champs. You know, 3 that was my first team. I just didn't feel comfortable, and my dad was like, you got to go to Olympic Games. You know, at least on your CV, it's a good look. You know,
it's the pinnacle. You know.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? Just a minute. Isn't it crazy how we sit here and then we hear somebody really talk about how much he didn't care if he went to the Olympics because that's how certain people or society made him feel.
Yeah,
it's sad.
You say what you didn't like running. Is it also because of the racism and the things that were happening?
Yeah, just a lot of things went on in a world champ team that year in 2003. There's a lot. I don't want to really go into depth because we're going to it'll sort of bore the audience too much, you know. Like, but there's things this happened which I was a very and Jeff knows I was quite an extroverted. I like to have laugh, like to have fun, and I was never naughty. I never did anything wrong, but I just called things out for what I saw. I spoke my truth. And at the time, athletics was quite conservative. Coming from boxing, you can sort of do that, right? Because eventually the truth's going to find you.
It sells fights as well, you know?
Well, it sells fights, but if you're cheeky in the gym, you hop in a square circle, the truth's going to find you. So there's no point being cheeky. You're just going to get either bashed or you're going to bash him. So running, it's not like that. You can run your mouth and no one... So I didn't have that understanding in my first team. So when people are disrespecting me because I was a younger kid, I couldn't take that. I didn't understand that. I didn't come on a team to be disrespected. I came on the team to be an equal and to be appreciated. And appreciate it. But just, you know, and at that time there was some hierarchy, and I respect hierarchy. Don't get me wrong, but there's a limit to it. Like, go to a line with me, but the minute I feel you're taking my liberties and you're really belittling me, that's when I'm going to have a crack. So that happened in 2003. So by the time 2004 came, I said to my dad, I'm not enjoying myself. My old man said, make the Olympic Games. At least you can have that on your CV. Anyway, I trained my butt off, moved to Sydney, lived with my auntie in Bexley, because I was from Perth, and made the Olympic Games. And again, I ran very well, and I missed out by 0.005 of running the individual in Athens. So I was a relay runner again. I didn't want to be a relay runner. I want to be the best in the world. So I was like, man, scrap these relays, man. Like, so when we got there, Australia didn't really have a great chance of winning the silver medal. Yeah, we had a good team, but we didn't have a team to win a medal. So in the heats, we honestly ran well, but one of the guys in one of the legs didn't run so well, and I vocalized that this kid can't run this leg because he shits on himself when he's in that leg. That's not built for that leg. But again, because I was the youngest, they didn't. It's all right, cool. And I didn't expect them to listen to me. I was the youngest, so I was like, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, I ran the heats, and at that time I wasn't very fit. I was fast, but I wasn't fit. So after a 400, if you ever ran one, I was a cactus. Yeah. So I was on my back at the finish line, just lactated up. And another Aussie goes, and we were laying to each other. And Clinton Hill ran over and said, boys, we've made the final. And I'm
again.
Fuck, I'm going to go again. I was thinking I was going to go to Glafada in Athens. I was about to party on the beach. I was getting ready to have a good time.
Go to the beach clubs.
Bro, I'm telling you. And I'm thinking, here we go. I'm thinking the lactic's really kicking in now. So anyway, warm down.
See, these guys are thinking they're partying. I'm thinking as soon as I lost, I'm going home. I'm going home to train.
No, because I knew that was it for me. Well, that was it. I was doing Olympics. I wasn't running again. The sport wasn't going to be my love. Like I was out. So, and that changed after this, and this is where I'll explain how everything sort of changed for me after this. And we went back, and then Patrick Dwyer, that was his last race. He said, John, I'm going all out. I'm killing it. Clinton Hill, he ran really bad in the individual, and then Mark ran bad in the heat. So all of us were angry, and it was my last race. I was leaving athletics. So we just made a pact, said, boys, whatever we do today, we're going to leave it out on the track. Like,
go all out.
No matter what happens, you better throw up blood. That's what's going to happen today. So I was pumped. Like before the race, I was G'd up, like ready to go.
Right.
And if you watch the race, you will see it. Like I am ready to rock. So I looked at the boys because they're all standing there, and I gave them a look like, fucking stick to your word because I'm going hard here, right? So that's why I always ran first. No matter what, in every reel, I always ran first. So I felt if they see my dedication to what I'm about to do, hopefully that builds them up to have a crack, you know? And the rest is history, man. Clinton ran a hell of a leg, and we ended up winning a medal, man. So
it's incredible.
And then from that day, I got a little bit of fame, you know, came home. And yeah, we all want fame when we're young, you know. So see my name in the paper and everything. And I got back, and then I decided that day, nah, this tastes too good, man. I need more medals, you know. The medals are brilliant. So, and then to answer Jeff's question, from that day, I became a full professional into my sport, dedicated everything, moved to America, lived in it, did everything because I realized that in order to be the best, I had to leave no stone unturned. And I did that for a good 11 years.
It's a punishing event that you chose, the 400 metres. An incredibly difficult event to choose.
I don't know. I chose poorly. I really wanted to do the 1 and the 2, but I wasn't good enough.
Right.
So the 4 found me. You know, I didn't want to be it.
Yeah.
So,
How do you train for a 400 as a professional 400 metre runner?
It's funny because it depends what sort of energy system you have. I was more. I had sort of half anaerobic, half aerobic.
Right.
I wasn't a pure sprinter, but I had pretty good endurance.
Okay.
And so my coach worked out very early in the piece to make sure I was smart enough not to do drugs. So I did everything I could to build up to make up for where I knew I was lacking. So one of those areas was in my hematocrit and then sort of my red blood cells, sort of how that was transported. So I made sure I did a hell of a lot of road work for a sprinter because I felt if I had very good conditioning, it allowed me to train longer and train harder, which that's what drugs allow you to do, train longer and train harder. So the problem with that is it takes a big toll on your body because you're getting a lot of quantity, you know, through training and volume. But if you're recovering well and not going out and not drinking and not doing all those things, that's where you make up for the amount of volume you're doing. That's where young kids get it twisted. They see a training program, they think they can go as hard on the street as well as on their training ground. So so anyway, did that, and that was pretty much we just trained bloody hard, man. Like I'd left, like again, I had a hyperbaric chamber at home. I had lived with a physio for 5 years, so I'd pay him to live with me, and they would travel the world with me, and just to say just everything, just like what any professional would do. Jeff did it. I think what any good professional that wants to win, that understands the importance of it's a team that sort of gets you there, and you can put great people around you. They all give you 5%, 1%, and that all adds up eventually, and then you're left to do the hard yards.
You mentioned drugs. How clean is athletics, in your opinion? Is it a dirty sport? I mean, there's people have been caught. Obviously, Ben Johnson's probably the most famous, you know.
I think it's no different to any other sport. I think when there's money, there's corruption, and power corrupts. So I think I don't think it's any different to if somebody wants it bad enough, they're going to do whatever they can to get there, and that was the, I guess, the moral dilemma I always had, and every athlete has, is okay, what is going to be your line, and you got to make that choice. And some athletes make that line which includes drugs. I chose to make that line which didn't include it, and I felt I was beating everybody without it to start off with. So in 2007 I beat everybody in the world, but at one-day meets in Madrid I beat the US champion. I came second in Monaco to the guy that came second that ended up winning world championships. I beat everyone. I beat everyone. I beat the former number one. I beat him in Sheffield in England. So I felt I didn't need it. Where it got to me is when you got to run rounds at a championships. Running rounds is what gets you at a championships. It's not. You've got to run the heats, the semis and the finals, and the heats and semis of a relay. That all takes a toll on you as your nervous system, not so much physically how fit you are, just your nervous system gets fried.
Do you know, as an athlete, do you get a sense of who you think's on performance enhancements, or you don't really know?
Assuming, when you smash a guy in Monaco and then 6 weeks later he comes and smashes you by a second, you can kind of look around and be like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe he was injured, maybe he was sick, who knows? But in Monaco, and that happened. I mean, I went to World Champs, I finished number 3 in the world, and I came 9th at World Champs. Yeah. And I felt I should have won. I should at least been in the top 4 at Worlds. I should at least won. I thought I could win a medal in Osaka, and that still puzzles me to this day because at that time it was the fastest non-qualified to make a final, around 44.8, and our Australian record's 44.3. You know, and I didn't make the final. You know, like, and that was a heat. Like that was a semi-final, which in the final I felt would have ran quicker.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I got to a point, man, where I didn't give a shit. Like in the end of the day, I knew how hard I trained, and I knew I'll break them either physically or mentally when we got there. So either way, you're gonna feel my wrath, and then you're gonna have to deal when you retire anyway. That when I look at my medals, I know that like if my son or my daughter or your kids ask me, can I become a Commonwealth champion? I can say, sure you can, because I don't think I was that talented. I think I had a great work ethic. So if I can do it, any kid can do it. You know, so it's great now working because I can just talk to anybody and they can't tell me that it's hard. No, it's not, because I did it. You can definitely.
You
do
worked hard, my brother.
You know, so
It's hard. You got to work hard. You know, like I said, I remember being and seeing you in America and knowing what you were doing. So you got nothing for nothing.
Did any coaching staff or fellow athletes ever suggest to you that you should try some of the performance enhancing drugs that others were?
No.
No one?
Never.
Right.
Never. Never. Australia, we're very good. Like, yeah, like, and that's why I think in the media we gotta do a better job, and I say myself as well, doing the small bit of media I do, in representing what athletics stands for in this country. 50 years ago, it was swimming. Athletics was a real pinnacle in our sporting culture. You know, you're talking 56. We're talking from then. That was, and somehow that's disappeared because we need this instant gratification now. You know, in the way we live our life. But we got to hero these young kids that are making finals. Yes, it's great we win a medal, but we got to hero these kids that are making semis, that are making finals, because making a final is like winning a medal at Olympic Games.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like, so if we have 6 kids that make a final, as Australians, we should feel proud that we have an Australian representing us in the final. Now, if you're in the final, you're giving yourself a chance, because a Bradbury moment can happen, right?
Yeah.
7 guys can tear a hamstring, and next minute you're a gold medalist. But you've got to put yourself in that position.
Sure.
And you're still a
You gotta
champion.
be in the race.
Because they got hurt. They shouldn't have got hurt. They're still a champion, whether it is or what it is.
Yeah.
So I just think we got to do a better job. And that's what Jeff was alluding to earlier, that and I think Ben as well, you were saying, do you think you've gotten enough recognition? I think it's just part of our circumstances, how we promote sport in this country. I don't think it's any fault of just the media. I just think it's just the way we've evolved with what we find interesting. You know?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of that in boxing as well, because we're used to so much success in other sports. In these sports, it's a different level of measure of success because of where we're placed.
Well, you see on the weekend,
Andrew Maloney.
it's great. I mean, how shit it was, not the result, but we got to watch an Australian fight for a world title. That's really cool. It's no disrespect to Andrew. It's nothing what Jeff was embarking on in his day, and that's what we relate it to. We always relate it to what Jeff did. But it's still a great achievement what the young bloke is trying to do and where he's wanting to embark on. So, but you're right, boxing is very similar, I feel, that if it's not to the feats of a Floyd Mayweather or a Manny Pacquiao or a Jeff Fennick, we go, yeah, it's all right. It's pretty good, but he still hasn't done what Jeff did or Manny's 8 division world champion.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
no, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There was always talk after you finished in athletics that in boxing circles that you were going to come and have a professional
He
bout.
still might be, Benny. He might be calling out his name very soon. This boy's been training and sparring with all the boys with team training. He's been sparring and training and doing great. He looks great. Somebody.
So is there still a chance that you might do it?
got to speak to my manager.
What percentage is he on?
I love it.
I'm on that friendship percentage.
Yeah, that's the worst percentage.
Yeah.
No. I love boxing.
80-20.
Yeah. I love boxing. I think it's just the pugilistic sport of boxing. It's just the best. Like, it's just, there's something about it. I'm addicted to it. I have an itch I want to scratch. And look, if everything is right, I'd love to get in there. But again, I want to get really fit, and I want to.
What weight, Jeff?
Maybe, what do you think, Johnny? 65, 66?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, but
Right.
listen, we're going to cut. Yeah, we're going to cut this short now because I know that Johnny's got a real big thing that's just around the corner. Johnny's a father of two beautiful children, Yola and little
Rusty,
and his beautiful partner Sarah is most probably in labour at the moment. As we
He's on the clock.
So we're going to let Johnny get away from
him
it. I
go.
just want to say, Johnny, thank you so much, brother. It's an honour to have you on my podcast, and it's not letting people see how smart and what a beautiful person you are, my brother.
No, thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Ben.
Thanks,
I have
mate.
been
It's a
tuning in.
pleasure.
I've been watching the episodes,
good.
and always humbled when I get to speak about my career, because I think I'm truly blessed to be in that
Well,
position.
should be very
certainly
proud,
had
mate.
a great one. That's right, bro. I love you, Johnny.
Nah,
There you
thanks,
go.
John.
you, guys.
And don't forget to subscribe, Standing 8, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.